All right, welcome in everybody to part three of Athletes with Faith. I know, it has taken some time. It's taken a week. We were just, joking about it to get the schedule, but it wouldn't be right if we didn't have obstacles when we were trying to talk about this very subject. But tonight, I got two outstanding character individuals. Both have been on and off the bench before. Christian even won the season 7 character award, which when you talk about winning these awards, it's voted on by your peers. And when you go against 38 other athletes, which he did in that season, and you get voted as the best character of 39, it really speaks volumes. And then Reagan, two-time guest, and she's had four of her teammates from Kentucky that have came on the show and done nothing but spoke volumes about her. So, like I said, when your peers talk about you that way, it really says a lot. So, with that being said, starting with you, Christian, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Reagan, how about you?
I'm good too. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, Reagan, since we had you on a few weeks ago, I mean,
Yeah.
y'all are delivering punishment on the volleyball court. Like, y'all can let it get competitive.
I mean, we're trying to. We're trying. We've had some ups and downs and just learning from them. So, yeah, no, we don't want competition.
I hear you. And then, Christian, and obviously we're gonna get into the whole faith aspect, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about. I mean, you were a part of building that Tennessee program. When you were there, y'all had already became kind of a monster, and now it's just, I mean, Tennessee is baseball right now. So, what's it mean to see that program that, like I said, you had an imprint on just doing what it's doing?
Yeah, I remember when I got there as a freshman, we said it was a decade of the balls, and we are going to change the program and the culture there. And it's kind of cool to see those guys. Each year we got closer and closer to winning, and it was cool to see them last year to finally get the ring and hoist the trophy, and it's just a testament to the seeds that the seniors had planted before that team who had won. So I
Yeah, and
love all
Tony
those
V
guys.
came
I'm
on.
happy for them.
Yeah, Tony V had came on and talked about it. He said all the guys from those previous teams laid a foundation for this, and he said
Yeah.
he'd give you all rings if he could. And I don't think that's a participation trophy type deal that he's saying there. I think what he's saying is genuine truth. It takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from a lot of guys to get to where they are. But obviously, we're going to talk about something different, and I'll start with you, Reagan, just giving you an opportunity. Don't have to go deep, don't have to take a long time, but giving a basic story of how it is that you came to be a follower of Christ, and how it became a big part of your life.
hmm Well, I was raised in the church, and me and my family would go every Sunday when we could. And at a young age, you don't really understand what you're going to. You're just getting familiar with the stories and everything. And so I didn't understand it when I was younger, like most people. But I think when volleyball started becoming more real, I kind of lost it. And so, like, we would have competitions every Sunday. And so I wasn't getting that same learning every Sunday. And so I kind of got lost in the volleyball. But entering college is when I really dove back into my faith because, like college is a lot of ups and downs, and you need just something that you believe in and a higher power. And mine was Christianity. And so I just really wanted to build my connection with God and with Christ. And that's how I kind of just got into it. A lot of self discipline.
Right. Yeah, no, you brought up something within your story that I've been trying to figure out. Me and my wife worked in the student ministry at our church for so long, and with our daughter being a traveling soccer player, and having to miss church all the time on Sundays, they never really implemented anything. We kept saying that it was something that needed to be done because we had so many athletes at our church, and when it's travel season for whatever sport it is, you miss a lot of church, and I think families kind of get off track, and somehow, some way, I don't know how they do that. I know they have online now, but I don't know if it's like given some sort of booklet to go over on a travel schedule or something, because it becomes so hard. And I think it's something that families need to do together. You don't want to lose track of that either. You don't you want that accountability that you have for each other. But it's interesting for you come into college, which is where a lot of people go wild, right? But you find yourself back to the roots. So that's pretty good. For you, Christian, man, what it look like?
Yeah, for me, like Reagan, I grew up in a family church, so I was always in and out the church every Sunday, Wednesday, vacation Bible school, all that great stuff. And then As I transitioned to like travel baseball and all that, it was kind of a struggle, being consistent with going to church and everything like that. So before games, me and my dad would pray before games, have a little devotional. And when I got to college, that's where my faith shifted for me in a positive way. So I was a part of a church group called 110, and it was a slash with Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I was a mentor on the team. And so my faith just gained, like, it increased so much from that. And being able to share with my teammates and even my coaches at the time, and to allow my teammates to make the decision if they wanted to get baptized or not, and just being that leader in that aspect. And so that's where my faith kind of, took off for me. And ever since then, I didn't look back. It was the best decision I made, was being a mentor, um, and just to impact lives and change lives as well.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, Christian, sticking with you, how hard is it? Both of y'all turned your lives around to the positive direction in college, but is it easier because high school, right? Like you want to do whatever it takes to fit in, whereas college, you can be the individual that you want to be and won't necessarily be judged or frowned upon for certain things. So is it, as much as it seems like it may be harder when you get to college, is it a little bit easier because you can be your own individual?
Yeah, it's kind of cool you said that. So there was one sermon that changed my life forever, and his name is Chris Walker. He was our mentor at 110, and he gave a sermon that said, "I don't want to be known as my nickname, or as for me, it would be C Scott. I don't want to be known as C Scott. I want to be as Christian Scott, a follower of Jesus." And so for me, it was tough. It was challenging, but then I realized, I was like, I don't care to be cool. I don't care to, have all the nice things. I just want to be a follower of Jesus, and, to share his word and just to enter his kingdom, and I stuck with that. And I mean, I didn't care what I looked like, or if I was, nerdy for thinking that. I
Right.
just stuck with it. And so that definitely changed my life for sure.
Yeah, and you brought up an interesting thing that I'm going to bring to you, Reagan, that was talked about in the first two episodes. Being known for more than an athlete, right? Yes, you're a national champion, right, Reagan? But like, that's not what you want to be identified as. As cool as it sounds, and you earned it, but you want to be identified, like Kristen says, as someone who's a Christ follower. So, how do you keep yourself leveled to where, hey, I'm more than a volleyball player. I'm more than an elite volleyball player, but I'm a child of God, and this is the priority of my life.
Yeah, I think that's just really important for people to see me as more than a volleyball player. And I think that just goes with reaching out and connecting with people. I'm really a stickler on opening myself up and being vulnerable, because I believe that's how you connect with people. And so, whether that's telling my story and my relationship with God, which is sometimes hard to talk about, whether it's that or just asking them how they are, and we're just having conversation, connecting, that's how people can see the real me, and just about what I believe in, my values, and just connecting with them on that level.
Yeah, and so I'm going to use a situation that I know with each of y'all, and just kind of want to get how you were able to deal with it, because I think, especially for the younger audience who listens, that looks up to y'all, for you, Reagan, it's you make a change from Kentucky to Texas, and for you, that you made the right decision. You talked to us about it on here. God was a part of your decision. But for those who maybe don't understand it, for those who maybe are kind of talking about you behind closed doors, how is it that you stay focused and you stay positive, even though there's people that maybe have a negative a thought process about your decision making?
I think it really is important to kind of just block out all outside opinions and output, and just really hone in on the relationship that I have with Christ, because I know what he wants for me, and other people don't want the best for me. And so, just having that peace within and peace of mind to know that no matter what other people say, like, I'm focused on one person, and that's God, and just being in that position. And it's kind of a crazy story how I transferred. I don't remember if I told it on here or not, but I was really indecisive all year about whether I wanted to transfer or not. And I prayed about it, but I never had the answer. And I just was so impatient. And I just wanted to know now. But I think it was definitely a test of patience because the Sunday before I went into my coach's office, I went to church and the message was time to go. And from there, I was like bawling in church. I don't even remember what the sermon was about. I just saw time to go and I felt that peace. I was like, okay, this is my decision. And I felt that discernment. And so that's when I went in the office and told my coaches, which was hard to do, but I was really confident in my decision because of that message that I got that Sunday morning. And so, yeah, no matter what anyone else says, like I just know it was the right decision because of that experience. So,
Yeah, and I mean, it's patience is the hardest thing there is to deal with in life, period. Like nobody wants to wait for anything, and especially for us Christ followers, right? We want to pray to God and get an answer 5 minutes later,
mhm.
right? We kind of treat him like a genie on a lamp, and we rub it and want it to happen, and so it can be hard. But most people that we talk to about these decisions, um, God plays a significant role. But for me, just looking from the outside in, when it came to you, some would say, okay, you're going to Texas, it's the best, volleyball school. But I, for one, know that you have a national championship at Kentucky, so you're not ring chasing. I also know that you're from Texas, so that plays a role in it. And you have friends there, right? So I have an overall idea that some people don't, but I also know that you talk to God in your decision making, and I'm watching you through these videos, or I got to see you on TV, like I sent you the thing that one day, and you look happy as ever. So at the end of the day, I think that's what you're talking about. In the end, you block out the noise because it's about what makes you happy and what you feel like God's calling you to do. And it seems like Texas is an absolute blessing. But I'll tell you, Reagan, as I go to Christian, he's got one of the hardest things you have to deal with in all of sports, and that's playing in right field in front of student sections. And I will even call out my own fan base because I heard some stories of when he was at LSU, and I bring it up because Christian, when you are trying to portray the best Christ follower you can and let people know who you identify as and represent him the best you can, and you are playing in a hostile environment where people are yelling ugly things at you, how do you conduct and handle yourself and don't let yourself, drop down to their level, so to speak?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. So LSU is actually one of my favorites. I met lifelong friends there actually from that weekend series. And how I did that is I look at it as part of the student section. It's their job, right? You're not going to go to any SEC school and think you're just going to get by, right? It's their job to make you feel uncomfortable. Um, and I just kept my head on straight. I was like, I just laughed really, and I would interact with them and stuff like that, and just keep a smile on my face because at the end of the day, they can't get mad at me for smiling.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I just interacted with them really. And then come Sunday, I think we were beating you guys a little bit, and I would just talk to them and
Just a little bit. I think 16-7, if I'm not mistaken.
say what?
I said just a little bit, 16
Just
to
a little
7, if
bit,
I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
It was a high scoring game, but yeah, I mean, I think the little kids let me have it a little bit more though. They were pretty feisty that day.
But the thing is, you're right. You'll get it anywhere. But something that I've
Yeah.
learned, and I've just about hit the whole SEC. I know you've seen like traveling. There are fans that know how to do it in a fun, heckling way, and then there's
Yeah.
crossing a line, and you're going to get
Mhm.
students who maybe they're not raised in home like y'all were, right? Don't have
Mhm.
proper home training is a good way to put it, or they're drinking heavily, and so they're making very, very poor decisions, and so you have to, like you said, just smile. And it's, for me, it's something that's hard. I've had anger issues my whole life, and so just smiling at somebody has never set well. I usually open my mouth back, and then that's where you have problems telling them, "Hey, I'm a Christ follower," and they're like, "Aren't you the guy that wanted to fight me 5 minutes
Yeah.
ago?" I was like,
Yeah.
but no, man, it makes me proud that weekend turned out that way because, the stories I was hearing were from LSU people. So
Mhm.
that was pretty cool that it turned out that whole way,
Mhm.
and that you were able to have a story from it. Coming back to you, Reagan, another subject that I didn't get to talk about with the other groups because they don't have this going like the two of y'all did. Both of y'all represented Christian apparel. And to me, that's a big deal, because if you're going to do that, you are now taking one step further in saying, hey, I'm going to represent God and people are going to know about it. I have a brand attached to me. And so everything you do is magnified that much more. And so starting with you, Reagan, first, how, cool was that to just set up that, to wear that apparel? And then how much does it mean to you that you now have to represent it because it's literally written across your chest?
Mm-hmm. I think it was really cool when they came to me, and it was an Instagram DM, and they were just like, we see your page and we see that you're a Christ follower. And I think that was just the coolest thing, because they could see my faith as a reflection of my Instagram. And some people you just don't see that with. And so that part was cool, that they discovered me and saw that I was a Christian and identified that with me. And the other thing is cool merch that I can just walk around in and let people know that this is what I represent. And it's Underarm or Underdogs Athletics. And so it says powered by Jesus. And I just really love that message, with sports and without. My strength comes from God, and just letting that be known wherever I go is really cool. So it's really exciting to get that kind of deal and have it come to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was sad the company never got off the ground, but there was one that was attached to Memphis City Design, who is the one that does our apparel, and they wanted to have Kaya Johnson be the face of it, which, if she's like family to me. She's 4-time guest of the show, but I just believe that she 100% and everything I've seen has embodied a Christ follower, and I really wanted to get her an opportunity to wear the apparel that they were showing me, and unfortunately it never fell through. But the reason I bring that up is just because you were talking about that feeling, and I wanted to be able to present that to her. I'm talking about it now, and if she listens to it now, she's gonna be like, "Oh, what?" And I'm like, yeah. And I was trying to set something up, but I think it's a great opportunity, because if people are looking at you, like you said, you're clearly doing something right for them to approach you and want to come to you, and I think it's great. So, Christian, for you, I saw the same thing, man. And for me, it's a guy to a guy. It's shirts that look comfortable and fit right too, on top of saying a powerful message. So talk to me.
Yeah, no, that was definitely it was called Victory Apparel. It was same as Reagan. They sent me a DM, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I really liked the shirts and the hats and the bracelets and all that stuff, and I got to pick out what I wanted. And of course, I went with a long sleeve and a gray. Showed the muscles a little bit, but it was good. But just for it to say unashamed was enough for me. I really like that word. And for me, I shouldn't be ashamed to wear, that product and to show my faith. And so I really fell in love with the product and everything like that. And then along with the bracelets, and, it would have a little Bible verse at the bottom of the shirt. And I thought that was neat. I've never seen that before.
Mhm.
But I love what they have going. At least once a week, we shared a devotional in the group me. So there's more to it than just the brand and wearing the clothing. So I fell in love with that group, and I still rock it to this day. I wear it to the gym now, and I get a lot of people commenting and asking me where I get the shirt. But yeah, I wear it
Nice.
whenever I
And
can.
that's a gateway to open up conversation. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the best reasons, if not the most important reason, to wear it. And what I'm hoping that will come from this, because obviously y'all being collegiate athletes, it's just been on my heart, and because I know I'm able to see the audience that listens to the show. So I know that 20% of the audience is under 18, and I want them to be able to understand, because it feels like you said unashamed, and it feels like they're the generation that they're worried about what everybody thinks, right? There was a guy that I knew from the church. He was on the baseball team, and he did all the right things on Sunday morning, right? And then I heard him in the locker room in the set of lockers next to me at the gym with his buddies, and he wasn't that same guy. And I kind of turned the corner and talked to him afterward, and I told him, I was like, don't lower yourself to those guys. Like, you don't have to be like that to fit in, be cool. And it's easy for me to say that, right? I'm the 40-year-old guy, right? But if they see it from y'all and understand big time college caliber athletes and understand that you should be unashamed. And so that's what I really, really hope, because even my own daughter would admit, that she had struggles with it just on her high school soccer team, because you're desperately trying to fit in. And if people will talk about you for the silliest reasons, including, the fact that you go to church on Sundays. So, but, kind of wrapping up with a couple last things, Reagan, come to you. Speaking on that, what would you say to not even just necessarily the younger generation, but those who are just, afraid to maybe, come out because they think that people are going to judge them? Because I think Christian said a good way of looking at it. It's nerdy, right? And I don't even know how that came to be, right? Jesus was the strongest representation of a person ever, with what he did. And so the idea that that's what you fit in with nerdy. And, if you just think of athletes, not even just college, right? Some of the biggest and strongest, most professional men or women that you could ever think of have, admitted to being followers of God. So I don't really know where that whole narrative came from, but what would you say if someone was struggling to want to, kind of be open with their faith?
I think, like I said before, just blocking out the noise. And I know that's a lot harder to do in high school when you are trying to fit in. But if you really want to be committed, then it's just important about finding that relationship with you and Jesus. And so, yeah, and it's hard to do, but it's just kind of a leap of faith. And I feel like once you're in that faith, then it doesn't matter what noise is going on around you. And something I always tell myself is that I want people to see God working in me. And so it's kind of like a kill them with kindness mentality, when they are talking about you behind your back or to your face, just doing everything to intimidate Jesus' walk of life. Like, what would he say and what would he do, type of thing.
Yeah. And so with Christian, I want to swing it to you, because I kind of addressed for her talking to, y'all's age, but you're in the workforce now, right? You're in different areas all the time. How are you able to, because not everything's just acceptable, right? Because then rules change. Like you're able to do that in college, but maybe at a job where it's not just what you maybe are openly allowed to do. How would you go about doing that?
I oftentimes pray, God give me the strength or to have the faith, stuff like that. But I actually had an encounter with a coworker, and I heard his ringtone, and it was a Christian song, and I was like, dude, I love that song. And we sat in the car for like an hour, just tears shedding, and it was just a powerful moment for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we connected on that level. So there's some you can talk about it with, and there's some you can plant seeds, and it's just you have to pray about it, and let him guide you, because he won't steer you wrong. And that's where I come from.
And
And
I
when it
mean,
comes to the baseball side of it too, I wanted to add this. So like for me, um, for a while I always cared about home runs, strikeouts, and diving catches and all that great stuff, or bad stuff. But for me, once I separated that from playing for Jesus and glorifying Him, that helped me tremendously. I could play free. I didn't have to worry about what coach was thinking, or what my teammates thinking. I just played free and had fun.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big tip for the generation now.
Yeah, and in that previous episode with the four gentlemen, so KD had that mindset already, Christian, and he talked about it, and that was why when he got in the truck accident and had to have his leg amputated, where most of us would be mad because he's literally 3 weeks from the NFL Combine and his career was taken away, and he was already at peace because he had an understanding that he was much more than a football player, and actually had already had a belief that God had more for him than that. Whereas Allen talked about when he got to the NFL and then injuries started to pile up, he had an identity crisis and couldn't figure out who he was, because all he knew himself was as a football player, and he wasn't prepared for life outside of that. And so it really is the mentality and something that you take, whether you're in athletics, in academics, or in the workforce, having that. And that's what made me want to start this, because I've had this amazing platform and getting to talk to all these athletes. And I even had one of our counselors at the church tell me that I had the most amazing ministry opportunity. Like a year ago, he told me this, and he was like, man, you have the opportunity to pour in to so many, college athletes. And even still with him saying that, I didn't really do anything about it. And then it was, Carter Cunningham came on a few weeks ago and just started, talking about how God was responsible for everything. Nothing was him. And then the sermon at church was about, what are you doing with what's in your hand? Right. Because it was talking about Moses and the staff. And so I'm like, what I have in my hand is this podcast, and what am I doing with it? And it's great. Everything I was doing, we're sharing athlete stories. We're trying to, grow the game, but are we talking about Christ? And up until Carter was doing it, we really weren't, unless it was just something that was a part of y'all's story. So for me, it was like, what am I doing in my hand? And so for my workforce kind of thing, I wanted to bring this in. And, if this ends up being what overtakes the other show, because I feel like that's what God's calling to do, while it would make me kind of sad a little bit on the side, and maybe people who are followers of the show, ultimately it's about representing him, right? And so that's why I really wanted to do this. And what y'all are saying is solidifying why I brought the right people on. And Reagan, the last thing I want to ask you is, because usually y'all do you have a go-to verse that's like your verse that you like to go to, maybe whether it's your favorite or just something you go to in hard times?
I'm so glad you asked me that. I have one that I wanted to share. Let me find it, but it's kind of my verse for the season, and this is when I'm in a hard time, this is what I go back to. And so it is Exodus 14:14, and it says, "Don't be afraid, just stay still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never see you again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm." And I just love that verse so much, because there's so much in life that I want to do on my own, or like try to do at my own pace or own time. But the Lord has a plan for me. I just need to be where my feet are and let him work and do as much as I can on my own and let him do the rest. And so that's just really inspiring for me, whether it's a practice that I'm not feeling my best at, or just walking to class and like feeling tired. Like I know that there's a plan for when I get there. So
right. And it sounds so simple when you read it, right? But when you do have everything you got going on academically, athletically, and then whatever might be thrown in, on the side of life in general, whether it can be health or family, things, it really is hard to keep calm because you have a busy life. And so you have a verse that you can come back to keep yourself grounded, and like you said, be where your feet are. And it's kind of funny. I've heard that a lot lately, and I feel like that's starting to be kind of the motto that I think people, Christians are starting to live by. And like I said, it sounds simple, but you got to find yourself back and keep that thought process in your head when the anxiety of life, starts to hit you. And I think you also brought up, the control thing. Like there's so much good scripture that I've been reading specifically into that. And that's why I'm glad you brought that up, because it was no different than we were talking about patience. You don't want to wait, and you also want to have control of everything. And if you just, leave it to him, it'll all work out. And maybe it doesn't work out in your time. That's why I always love the graphic, your path and then God's plan. And that's the reality, right? Like it may not go exactly the way you want it to, but in the end, if you just trust in him, it will. And that's why I will say to y'all, if y'all didn't get to hear the previous episode, KD I've never been inspired by someone so much. Like I was mad for him in real time. He was a 2-time guest of the show. And my thought process before I had talked to him was I was mad. I was like, why? This guy has been so good. He ministers to people. He runs these kids camps. And right before his NFL career, and he was like, that's not the plan God had for me. And it was like, to hear him say it with such peace, I was like, I don't know how you do it. And he's talking to me like, you can do it too. You just, it's that faith of a mustard seed, like he said. So, but Christian, for you, man, what's the go-to verse?
Mine is you may not know now what I'm doing, but later you understand. And for me, that is pretty much my whole life thus far. Not being able, or not playing baseball anymore, having to go into the workforce now, just all of the above. And that verse has changed my life tremendously, for sure. For sure.
Do you feel like, because it's been over a year now, just being honest, on there, like have you come to peace with the fact that you're not going to be playing professional baseball and that you are in the workforce. But also, like we talked about before the show, you're not out of the game because you're doing the most important thing, right? You're mentoring to young kids in the game of baseball. But have you come to peace with that now?
Oh, 100%. As soon as I stepped foot off the baseball field, it was a clear picture to me that I'm called to do more and to go back home and give back to the community. And yeah, it's heartwarming for sure. And just thinking about all of it.
Yeah, well, I'm happy for both y'all, and I'm glad we got to do this episode. Like I said, and we had to shift some things around. Ultimately, ended up here on a Friday night, but we were able to get it done. Important, stories that want to get out there, and I've had y'all do it in your previous episodes, but if you don't mind, starting with you, Reagan, given where they can follow you, because I want them to see that representation we're talking about, and as well as the apparel and all that stuff.
Yes, so my Instagram is Reagan Rutherford with 2 D's, and you can follow that. And I also have TikTok, which is Reagan Rutherford, but with 2 N's at the end of Reagan.
Now, see, I didn't say you could promote TikTok on here. We ain't doing all that.
TikTok?
That's where I realize I'm old, because I am not a TikTok person, and my wife will send me TikToks all the time. I'm like, what's saying that stuff? What about you, Christian?
My Instagram is _cscott8. And then TikTok is cscott002, and or Facebook Christian Scott.
Well, I'd rather y'all do that than Twitter. Twitter, I use it because it's such a key thing in sports. You can find out news so quick, but man, if it isn't the nastiest of all the social media stuff, I'm glad y'all aren't promoting that. Kids, stay off there, never get on there ever. But once again, thank you both for taking your Friday night to do this. Look forward to continuing to watch both you in your journeys. Man, Christian, keep me up to date with what's going on. I know I don't get to see it as much with Reagan's fixing to win another national championship and stuff. But I'm telling you, hey, if you get a chance, Christian, Texas volleyball, man, these guys, like I said when we started the show, no mercy, man. That we're talking about Christ, he has some compassion, Reagan. Y'all can let somebody win us that,
I have family in Texas, so I'm rooting for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
But who the real UT is. That's all.
Oh, don't do that on here. Don't do that. This is supposed to be a family show now. I love that Texas is in the SEC, and we talked about it on her episode, which wasn't too long ago, Christian. It's good for them because their competition level, I joke about them the way they're doing. They haven't, started playing their conference opponents. And so being now in the SEC, they'll get a lot better competition, which will be fun for Reagan. So and she's got her old team to come up against, which will be interesting within itself. And they're not bad.
Yep, we'll be playing them. Yeah.
I'll have to. When's that game?
October 13th.
Okay. Oh, that's my.
She remembers it. I'm sure she's got that ingrained in her mind.
Yeah. I know
I'm gonna definitely watch that game and cheer you on.
And to add a little suspense to that, she ain't the only one on the Texas squad that played on that Kentucky squad either. And so it's gonna be that way and Skinner isn't the only other one, is she?
She's the only one from Kentucky.
Okay.
Now,
notice she said the only one, so they got some other girls from some other places. Start marking them down on the schedule. But no, Kentucky's really good. And I'll say this, Christian, and she'll vouch for this. Emma Grom, we had her on the show. That Kentucky volleyball team that Reagan was a part of, man, Ajani Teeler and Maddie Brezowitz, that's why I think she left. All those girls left, and I think Reagan couldn't handle it anymore. She's like, the super squad out of here.
Well, I was really close with both of them, so it was hard to see them go, but no.
But like I said, wish y'all nothing but the best, and I'll be following both y'all following you throughout the season, just keeping up with you as well, Christian. But wish you nothing but the best of luck, and stay blessed. If you need anything along the way, just reach out.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
Thank you for having us on here.
Yeah, it was
absolutely awesome. That's Reagan Rutherford and Christian Scott. Everybody, if you like hearing their story or you like listening to us Average Joe's talk X's and O's, you can listen to the normal podcast, but we'll see everyone back next week. we got season 11 on deck, and we were just talking about that. Go vote for the awards right now. No different than Christian won season 7 character award. That's kind of a perfect segue with the last conversation. Emma Grom is one of the 4 candidates for the season 10 character award. So go check that out. Vote. Reagan, you did not get put in the running because second-time guests don't get the opportunity.
Oh,
so rules are rules. But yeah, check that out. Next week we'll be there. But if you listen to this show, share, subscribe, follow. Let's get this thing trending. Let's start doing what Christ intended us to do. Let's spread. Let's be the hands and feet of Jesus. But thank you both, and y'all have a blessed evening. All right. So I didn't want to do the regular sign off because we weren't talking sports. So I feel like that was good enough. Y'all think so?
Yeah, that was great.
I don't know what's going on with my camera.